All right, so we got Alex Tappen with us, All-American, one of our favorite players and has been for a while. Big friend of the program. Tap, thanks for jumping on with us, bro.
I appreciate you having me. Absolutely.
So what are you up to now? I know you're working camp in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Waiting to draft out.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of hanging out, using the facilities, working out. There are a couple guys down here doing the same thing, just waiting to see how it all plays out.
So as
This is good.
pro ball has always been the goal. Is that from like when you were a kid playing pro baseballs?
Absolutely. Like we kind of had talked about before was that was a big reason why I wanted to come back and use that last year of eligibility. Because I knew that I still had stuff to offer to the program. And also I just wanted to prove myself that player of the second half last year was the player that I always was. And, I was able to do that. And it's always been a dream. So coming back, Coach O'Connor giving me that extra year of eligibility, giving me that chance to come back was awesome. And, I jumped at it right away.
And I mean, you guys deserved it too, because like spring sports got it real bad during COVID, having like cut off right in the middle of you guys that just started ACC play.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I think it was the second game of the season against Oklahoma down in Pensacola, bust up my hamstring. So I had missed like 14 games or something in that season, and I just actually started coming back. I just played in the series against NC State, and then who did we play? UMass Lowell.
Yeah, Eastern Shore, one of them.
Yeah, it was UMass Lowell, and then we were. What was it? It's actually the same place that we stopped when we went up to Pitt this year. We were going to Pittsburgh after that 2-game midweek stretch against UMass Lowell, and obviously we were all checking our phones, and we all kind of saw that I think it was the SEC and Ivy League were kind of the first to call it. And we're like, oh boy, here we go. We're next. And, we were about to get back on the bus to continue the trip. And Coach O'Connor was like, we're going home. But we didn't really know at that point how much impact. I mean, it still has impact, today.
Of course.
It's crazy to think about when when you have the chance to kind of decompress and think about all your collegiate career and the kind of craziness that ensued after that. It's wild.
So it's always been the dream when you were a kid growing up in Pennsylvania. Is it more Philadelphia area or Pittsburgh area?
Yeah, I say Philadelphia just because no one's really heard of Lower Gwinnett, Pennsylvania, but yeah, it's like 20 minutes north of Philadelphia.
I have one of those too. I'm from New York, but when I say New York, everyone's like, oh, the city. And I'm like, well, it's like an hour away. But.
Yeah, right. Close enough. Close enough to where I can claim Philadelphia is my hometown.
Yes. So when you were growing up,
Mm-hmm.
who were like the big idols, or who were some of your baseball role models growing up around Philly?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Chase Utley.
That's what I was thinking. If I had a guess, I would have said Chase Utley, man.
Yeah, like Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, those guys. All just such a big impact. I wasn't as big of a fan back when they actually won it. Just growing up, my parents weren't really big into like professional sports. As I kind of grew up, they became like a lot bigger in my life, like the Eagles, Sixers, Phillies, like all became like really influential. And with going to games, going with friends to games and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, those three guys were the reason we won it, plus Doc and Cliff Lee. Who else was on that? I don't know. I can't remember. But
let's think. Was Jason Worth on the Phillies then?
Yes. And then Carlos Ruiz.
Yeah, Carlos Ruiz. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's good. It was a good team.
That team was just I mean, that's kind of what helped fall in love with the Phillies, was that team.
Are you following Phillies this year?
Yeah,
they got things back on track.
I know. They got hot. I mean, as soon as they fired Girardi, it was like,
yes,
Rob Thompson is a savior,
But sometimes it's just like it's just like
Yeah.
shaking things up a little bit.
Well, like you look at Girardi hasn't, besides that 109 year that they actually beat the Phillies, the Yankees, when he was with the Yankees, he hasn't done anything as a manager. So I guess Robbie, I guess just getting rid of him was just because everyone started hitting. Schwarber's hitting now, Castellanos is hitting now, and obviously, unfortunately, Bryce got hurt, but
Yeah, like broken bones and the
should be back. I think I just saw something that said he should be back sometime August, which if we're in play for a wild card spot, I think would be huge.
I love watching Bryce play.
Yeah, beast.
So
Beast.
so growing up in Pennsylvania, when did you know that, like, were you a one sport guy? Were you multiple sports, or when did you know baseball was going to be your ticket?
Played basketball, played soccer for first 2 years of high school. Basketball played all 4 years. I would say probably around like 12 or 13 when I started to play like travel ball, because travel ball was starting to be a pretty big thing. Like we were kind of right in the transition from what was it? Obviously high school baseball was a big factor. But I think it was Legion. American Legion was kind of a big thing. And then we were kind of in that transition period that travel ball became, like the travel ball circuit was a thing. And once I started traveling up and down the coast playing baseball with my dad, I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. And obviously like playing other sports is good just for the competitiveness of it. And obviously basketball with like conditioning and stuff like that. I know a lot of coaches will tell you to not specialize, especially in high school, just because there's so many benefits. But yeah, like 13, right around 13, 14, the 8th, 9th grade range was kind of when I was like, okay, like, this is fun. I want to do this.
You're traveling up and down all over like summer tournaments. All that.
Playing in like the national championships down in Georgia, Florida, like WWBA, Perfect Game, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like Perfect Game was kind of back in the day when I was growing up. It was a lot of American Legion. It was like in the summertime you were playing American Legion.
Yeah.
Juniors, seniors, whatever, other travel ball.
Right.
But then frozen ropes was the thing. I don't know if that
was. Yeah. And then it was kind of, I forget how it happened. Oh, one of my buddies, Nick Rowland, his dad was, lived in our neighborhood, and his dad had mentioned to my dad something about travel ball, and you need to be playing travel ball now because of how important it's becoming, and that's where all the college coaches are gathering at these big national tournaments. And then we were able to find a team. It was like Evo Shield. It was the Evo Shield Canes, Mid-Atlantic. Then we kind of went through like a weird transition where we turned into Chandler Baseball, like the bat company. And then that changed into US Elite. I know we had a couple guys on our team, like Matt Wyatt played for US Elite. And then I ended up playing with Tri-State Arsenal kind of the last couple of years of high school. And that's, it's such a big thing, just getting exposure and being able to play travel ball is it's especially now, it's even crazier now, with all these new rules and stuff. It's wild.
How did UVA come in the picture?
I played in a tournament here. What was that, summer after my summer going into my junior year. So that was like 2015, because it was right after they won the national championship. Played well, got to talk to Coach O'Connor briefly after the tournament because we won it. And then Coach Matt came down, saw me at the WWBA down in Marietta, like the Perfect Game complex. And on our way home, got a call from Coach Mack. He was like, hey, stop by on your way back up. And Coach O'Connor will give you a tour. And took the tour, met Coach O'Connor, kind of got a lay of the land. And kind of really quick, it all happened within like a 2-week period. He offered me right after that visit. And I remember I was like, I'm dad was like, you should call mom. And I called my mom and I was like, hey mom, commit to the University of Virginia, and screaming
That's awesome.
all that kind of stuff.
Were you doing like visits otherwise, like other?
Yeah, it was like Virginia Tech. I've been to Virginia Tech, Penn State, Pitt. But for the most part, it was like kind of early in the process, I guess. Like I just started talking to these teams, and played well enough to catch Coach Mac's eye, and it all worked pretty quickly from there. And here we are now 5 years later. It's just crazy to think about how long ago that was.
It turned out that they made a good decision, and so did you.
Yeah, I mean, I owe everything to this place. It's been amazing.
Yeah, Charlottesville's a great city too, man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I fell in love with it the first time I visited, and that's only, I didn't think I could love it anymore. And then here we are, came back for one more year just because of it.
So this question's I always wondered. So you're playing, right?
Right.
But you're an A2000 guy or whatever.
Right.
And then you go to UVA, right, and they're all Rawlings. What happens in that case?
I loved the Rawlings gloves. Obviously, like, A2000 was what I used beforehand, but the gloves were unbelievable. Like Heart of the Hide, Pro Preferred, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, it wasn't really a difficult transition, but the bats, obviously the Quattro was kind of the thing. I started as soon as I committed, I think, what was it? The Trio. I started using the Trio in high school. And then they stopped using it, or they stopped making it. So I just, made the transition to the Quattro, just because before the Trio I'd used like Easton 2-pieces. So 2-pieces was something that I was very familiar with and used all the time. So
what is everything now? Composite?
Yeah, it's like BB core composite. I don't really know. I just kind of I pick up the bat and I swing it, So yeah, but it's always interesting to see, like, I'm not sure how much of a difference it makes, obviously, because I haven't been able to swing any of the other metal bats, like the Marine or any of that kind of stuff. But Quattro, Quattro worked out pretty well this year.
So from the transition from 2021, you guys had to run to the College World Series. You got super hot at the end of the season. And then this year, kind of lighting the world on fire. What was the offseason like, or how can you explain what happened? Was it anything mechanically? Was it what you did in the offseason, or was it just like timing was right?
And obviously, like, I think, there are the small adjustments that I kind of made after kind of the slow start in 2021. Worked on, the technicality of it all, like getting on plane early, staying, like, working through it, all that kind of stuff is just the little kind of like swing adjustments that I made. But I tell you, it was mostly mental. I had, I started meeting with a sports psychologist here at UVA, and just went to him and I was like, hey, like, I need help with the mental part of this game, and that was huge. I mean, this year I met with him every 2 to 3 weeks, and whether I was going well, whether I was going poorly, regardless of how the team was doing, like, just having that consistency and just being able to build up my mental was probably one of the biggest factors. And it's always interesting, like, talking to sports psychologists and stuff like that, because a lot of guys think that they can just tough it out and whether go through the ebbs and flows of the season, but just having, like, someone just to talk to and just say whatever is on your mind with no judgments or anything was kind of the biggest thing that I took away with it. And I tell everybody this, and I'm like, I can't stress it enough how important it is. Like, you work so hard on the physical part of the game, right? You're practicing for 3, 4, 5 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
But like this is like just as important. So
and baseball especially is a really tough game.
Especially, you're right. It's like the cliche saying it's a game of failure, because it is.
Yeah.
Right. And just being able to figure out how to deal with that, how to make adjustments on the fly, just building like little routines that create consistency lead to consistency in your play. And that was my biggest takeaway. And I'm so thankful that just because my dad and my parents have been pushing me to, why would you not? It's there for you. Like it's another resource that you could use. And it's like, obviously it was like the one thing that I hadn't tried, right? You work on
take a million cuts, right?
Right. There's only so much you can do physically, but to be able to take that and be able to fine tune it into something that's applicable for yourself every day, was awesome. Like he got me into journaling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you take it one step at a time, right? You wake up, you write like 3 to 5 things that you're thankful for, 3 to 5 like positive affirmations, and then you write down 3 goals, right? Short-term goals towards a long-term goal. So it was like, okay, wake up, right? Go through my routine, shower, breakfast, journal, write down all those things. And then the 3 goals, right, on like game days is I would write down like have 3 quality at bats in today's game, have 2 barrels of 95 plus exit velo, and just have fun, right? And the great thing about that is they were all like, those are all quantifiable, and they're all something that you can control, right? If you write down like 3 hits, get 3 hits, we can't control that.
Yeah.
Right. So
you can
it's
hit
like, and it's
3 rockets and they're caught.
Right. And that's like kind of the thing that trips people up a lot of times in baseball, is so focusing on average, when you like average is just a result, right? Everything that happens after the ball hits your bat is out of your control, right? So focus on the stuff that you can control and stuff like that. I tell you what, it was so important in my development as a player, just fine tuning my mental. And I think, you hear it a lot more often now than you used to, just because people are starting to kind of break that stigma and focus on fine tuning, the mental part of the game, because it is such a big part. And, not just baseball, every sport.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I've started to do recently, was like yoga in the morning, meditation, like working with a therapist.
Right.
And like, after a month of it, I'm like, man, if I had this when I was still, playing sports, it'd be like so much easier to deal with a tough couple of days at the plate or whatever, and feeling like the weight of letting people down and, all that stuff. Who's going to take my spot? It's
everyone has those thoughts. Everyone has those thoughts, but it's just, I think like one of the cool things that the doc I was talking to showed me was the finger trap, the finger trap that you put right there, right? If you pull, like you're never gonna break out of it. You gotta push it in, right, to get out. And kind of what that was is, well, these negative thoughts, right, that you have, you can't just run away from them, right? You can't just block them out. That's impossible, right?
Accept them.
So you have to accept that you're having these thoughts, right? And that's kind of like all the the being in the now kind of stuff that
I'm reading The Power of Now. Have you ever read this?
Right. Oh, are you actually?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard good stuff about that. And I've actually been meaning to read it.
Eckhart Tolle. It's a great book.
Yeah. And just that metaphor was just so impactful, because like, well, yeah, I've always been trying to figure out, how do I shut down that side of my brain that has, the self-doubt, the negativity, right? But when in reality, you got to accept it, that you're having those thoughts, and move past it. Like that's the only way that you can move past it, or, get out of the finger trap. So it's all super fascinating. And I'm so thankful that I actually decided to do it, because I mean, it had a huge impact on me.
Absolutely. No. And last year in the beginning of the year, I feel like you could see some of the struggles were kind of frustrating.
Frustrating. And it starts to get so heavy. The weight gets so heavy. And just to have an outlet to kind of release was huge.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So before we finish up here, a couple other things. So a couple things about Charlottesville, I guess we can jump into. Well, favorite spot in Charlottesville?
Oh, like food.
Yeah, food wise, I guess like a pregame spot maybe, or a post-game spot.
Post-game spot. Chris and I would always we fell in love with Torchy's Tacos. It's right.
Oh, then yeah, it's just opened like not so long ago.
So good. I'm taking like every time my parents come down, it's like, oh, like where you want to go? Like you want to go to Vivace? You want to go to Burton's? Now let's go to Torchy's. We would just rack up like 4 or 5 tacos, and it was just so good. And Chris and I would go all the time. I'm so uncultured to Charlottesville, which is crazy because of how long I've been here, but it's just how hectic everything is with the baseball schedule. It's like, all right, well, I'm just going to go get something quick to eat. Right. Yeah. Or I just, I make stuff at my apartment for the most part. So, I've barely been to the downtown mall or any of that kind of stuff, which is crazy considering how long I've been here, but it's just baseball, I don't have time to go out and sit down at a nice restaurant downtown mall.
Well, when you come back, later on, I'm sure you'll be back a million times. Then you can
100%. Then I get to expand. Yeah, definitely.
How did you choose your warm-up song, your walk-up song, and then how does everyone go about choosing their warm-up song?
Yeah. Shoot, who I think it might have been Chris. It might have been Chris who told me to do Tap by Nav.
And Meek Mill's in the song too, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, Philly, yeah, that makes sense.
Philly, yeah, there you go. No, but I obviously every single person in my family is called Tap in some form, right? Even my mom and my dad, it's just such a easy nickname, just Tap. It's just Tap. So just having that, I knew of that song, and I had a couple of guys tell me you should do it, and I was like, yeah, might as well. And that's kind of, everyone has their own unique way of choosing. It's like you find a song, whether it's your favorite song or it's typically something that gets you like locked in, gets you focused. Yeah. But for me, in my case, it was it was just kind of I had to do it just because of I've been Tapped for my entire life.
Any book recommendations? We had talked about a couple of books earlier, but
yeah, I got
or anything you're reading.
Power of Habit. Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich. It's like a book from like the 1920s or something.
Yeah, some of those old school books, man.
They stay so true. Yeah, those are like some of the books that I've got like a huge running list of, those kind of like self-improvement books.
How to Make Friends and Influence People is another one.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I might have one. How to Win Friends in it. Yeah. It's just it's funny because it's just you figure out these kind of different ways to sharpen your mind. That's what it's all about.
Continue improving. It's like that's what it's all about.
100%.
Last one. Favorite uniform combo. You guys have so many different options. What was each favorite combo at UVA?
The one regret I do have is not getting here while we wore the creams, because the creams were, I always remember watching UVA and seeing the creams, and like those were my favorites. The camos were another one that I wish we could have worn, but the ones that we did have, probably the pinstripes, all pinstripes.
I was gonna say the pins are pretty classic, man.
Yeah, all pins were probably my favorite. They were also like, I guess that's just bias from last year, because the Nike material on the pinstripe pants last year were different than the ones that we wore, like the grays and the whites with the piping down the side. And the pinstripe pants were just so much more comfortable and like stretchy, comfortable material. So I've always had a bias towards the pinstripes.
I like the newer hats too, guys. I think the hats changed in the last 2 years.
Yeah, with the little
it's kind of like a more meshy feel.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, definitely.
Those are way there too.
That's
All right,
busy.
man. Thank you so much for jumping on. I'm happy we could finally catch up and do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me on. It's been great.
I wanted to have you on during the season, but I was afraid to I didn't want to
Yeah.
mess up at a good thing. I was like, man, I don't want to talk about how good of a season you're having.
Yeah, it gets so busy, you just you lose track of everything between school and baseball, and it's just like you get so singularly focused. It's like, man. But I'm glad we got to do this. It's been awesome.
No, totally, man. Thank you so much.
Of course.